Banneker uses many rhetorical strategies in order to convey his message and fight against slavery. Banneker uses diction, repetition, persuasion, deductive reasoning, and juxtaposition to try and persuade Jefferson to help fight for the slaves' freedom. First, Banneker is a former slave, which means that he knows what all the other slaves are feeling. As a free former black man, Banneker gives Jefferson a reason to read his letter. Banneker and Jefferson both state the same values as both believe in helping the slave community. Quote, clearly saw in the injustice of a state of slavery. End quote. Banneker expresses position as you have seen what the state as you have seen what the state of slavery is like, and I have been in a position of slavery. This could show that Banneker and Jefferson both want to help the black community. With this in mind, Banneker consistently uses phrases that slaves don't get, which includes, quote, all men are created equal, end quote. Banneker is trying to convey the message that even though the Constitution says all men are created equal, my race isn't. Banneker tries to persuade Jefferson by guilt-trapping him and making him realize that he has the power to change. Another phrase was, quote, father of mankind, equal and partial distribution of the rights and privileges, end quote. Banneker uses this phrase as his argument by saying that God created everyone to be equal and everyone has the rights. The problem is that slaves don't have the power. In fact, they don't get a say in anything in the world. So Banneker expresses his feelings by hinting that Jefferson and God both created these things, but they don't apply to us. Banneker uses shared values, persuasion, and deductive reasoning to further argue his position on slavery. Secondly, Banneker uses repetition as well as pathos to try and persuade Jefferson into abolishing slavery. Banneker uses the word, quote, sir, many times throughout his letter. This states that Banneker is writing in a more formal tone, but also to show that he respects Jefferson very much. Banneker knows that Jefferson is the only person high enough to argue with Congress. The repetition that Banneker uses helps Jefferson realize that he is serious about what he wants. Jefferson has such a high status that he knows Banneker's opinion will not matter. But by Banneker writing in a more formal tone, it shows that he cares and is willing to work with Jefferson. Is willing to work with Banneker. Banneker shows himself in a position where he knows that he cannot say much because even though he's free, he's still black, and in that time period, blacks were opposed. They weren't allowed equal anything, so Banneker's letter reaching Jefferson really means something. The word choice that is given by Banneker is impressive, as it gives out a lot of persuasion. Banneker uses words like horror and cruel to further explain what slavery was like back then. Banneker is trying to use diction once again to persuade Jefferson, with words like horror to show the real treatment of slaves and words like cruel to help show their emotion. Banneker really wants to help the enslaved people because he knows he can't do it alone. Banneker uses juxtaposition in order to give these reasons to Jefferson and compare their status. Since Banneker knows that in the end, Jefferson is the only one that will be able to make a difference. In conclusion, Banneker includes multiple rhetorical strategies to help persuade Jefferson to abolish slavery. Banneker amazingly includes many reasons such as the Constitution, the freedom of Jefferson, as well as what Jefferson can do. Banneker explains all these strategies in order to further add on. He uses things like ethos, logos, pathos, and repetition. Ethos is explained using Banneker's experience as a slave and also ties in with logos because he knows that he can speak upon them. Banneker uses pathos as diction to further persuade and ties in with pathos by appealing to emotion to his words. He also uses repetition to show his position and his overall tone, which relates to pathos.